If a woman doesn't want you, she's going to show it. It just won't always be in the way you expect. A lot of men miss the signs, not because they're clueless, but because they don't want to believe what's right in front of them. The truth is, when someone's not interested, they don't always come out and say it directly. Most of the time, it's in the small things. The way she texts, how she talks to you, or the energy she gives off when you're around. If you've ever felt like you're chasing a woman who's slipping further away, or you've been confused by mixed signals, this one's for you. We're going to talk about what it actually looks like when a woman just isn't feeling it anymore, or maybe never was. This isn't about bashing women or playing games. It's about clarity. Because when a woman doesn't want you, she usually won't tell you straight up, but her actions will. And once you learn to read those signals without second-guessing yourself, it saves you time, energy, and frustration. You stop trying to force something that was never going to work, and instead, you keep your self-respect intact. We're not talking about moments where she's just busy or distracted. This is about consistent patterns. Things she does that silently say, "I'm not into you like that." Once you learn to recognize these signs, you'll stop chasing what's not meant for you, and you'll start investing your time where it actually matters. So in this video, I'm breaking down 7 clear signs that a woman doesn't want you. These aren't vague ideas. They're patterns of behavior that you'll start noticing once you know what to look for. Let's get into it. Number 1. She keeps you around but doesn't choose you. There's a big difference between a woman liking your company and actually wanting to be with you. A lot of men get stuck in this middle zone where they're present in her life, but never really invited in. You text often, maybe even hang out sometimes, but there's no forward motion. Nothing progresses. You stay in the same spot while she keeps you close enough not to lose you, but far enough not to commit. What usually happens is you start convincing yourself that you're just taking things slow, or that she's not ready for something serious, but deep down, you can feel something's off. So you stay available, you try to be consistent, and in return she gives you crumbs. A dry text here and there, maybe a quick call, maybe even a late night hey once in a while, but it's never solid, it's never clear. And that's the point. This is the kind of situation where you're emotionally invested, but she's emotionally casual. You're thinking about how to move things forward, while she's thinking about how to keep things where they are without having to fully let you go. It's not that she's playing some evil game, it's just that she doesn't feel strongly enough about you to commit. But she doesn't want to close the door either. Why? Because having you around gives her attention, validation, and a safety net. It costs her nothing and gives her just enough. Picture this, you've been texting her every day for a few weeks. You've asked her to hang out a few times. She says she's busy, but never offers another day. Then one Friday night, she calls you out of nowhere because her plans fell through. You spend the night talking, maybe even hanging out. The next day, silence again. That's not a relationship building, it's emotional convenience. And the longer you stay in that space, the harder it is to walk away. You start hoping that maybe one day she'll come around. But people don't come around when they already know what they feel. If she wanted to move forward with you, she would. If she saw you as someone she genuinely wanted, you wouldn't have to keep trying to prove yourself. You wouldn't be sitting in this blurry zone, wondering where you stand. If you find yourself being kept around without real progress, no commitment, no intimacy, no clear interest, it's not an accident. It's a choice. She may not be saying it out loud, but the message is clear. You're not the one she's choosing. She's just not ready to let you go completely. Number 2, her energy drops the moment you show interest. One of the clearest signs that a woman doesn't want you is how quickly her vibe changes when you start showing real interest. In the beginning, she might be playful, curious, and even flirty. She replies fast, throws in emojis, starts conversations, and then, out of nowhere, her energy drops. What changed? You started making your intentions known. Some men think this sudden shift means they did something wrong. Maybe they texted too much. Maybe they complimented her too early. But most of the time, the issue isn't how you said it. It's that she was never that into you to begin with. She liked the attention, the back and forth, the fun of the early interaction. But the moment things became real, her interest disappeared. This happens a lot when a woman enjoys being admired, but doesn't actually want anything deeper with you. So when you finally express interest, either by making a move, asking her out, or even just showing consistency, her energy takes a dive. Replies get slower. Her tone gets colder. She stops putting an effort. It's confusing because it feels like she led you on, and maybe she did. But more often than not, she was just entertaining the attention without thinking too far ahead. She wasn't planning to take it anywhere, and the moment it got serious, became uncomfortable for her. Not because you did anything wrong, but because she didn't want it to go there. You'll notice this pattern if you pay attention. A woman who's into you won't get weird when you show interest. She won't pull back when you open up a little. In fact, she'll usually match your energy, or even increase hers. But if her interest was surface level, your effort makes her realize, I don't want this guy to think I'm serious. So she starts backing away. The mistake a lot of guys make here is doubling down. They think, she was into me before, so maybe I just need to remind her. So they start trying harder, longer texts, more compliments, more invites. But it doesn't fix anything. It just makes the gap more obvious. When her energy drops after you show interest, take that for what it is. It's a signal that she was only halfway in, and now that it's real, she's out. And that's okay. You don't need to fight for someone who isn't excited to meet you halfway. Let her pull back, and don't chase. Number 3. She makes you work for bare minimum attention. Let's be real. If you're doing backflips just to get a lol or a dry K from her, you're not in a relationship, you're in a performance. And the worst part, you probably know it. Deep down you feel it, that itch, that something's off. You're giving, and in return, you're getting crumbs. A text reply 8 hours later, a conversation that dies unless you keep it alive, plans that are always maybe. That's not attraction, that's convenience. Now here's the twist. Some women do this on purpose, not because they're evil, but because it keeps them in control. You're chasing, she's choosing. And the second she senses that dynamic shift, where you want her more than she wants you, she starts rationing her energy like it's gold. Why? Because your desire becomes her leverage. This is what the Stoics called false appearances, things that seem valuable but are ultimately empty. Seneca warned about giving our energy to things that lack substance, and that's exactly what's happening here. You're being lured by the illusion of connection, but she's not connecting. She's broadcasting just enough signal to keep you tuned in. Think about it. She doesn't ghost you. No, she responds, just not with enthusiasm. She laughs, but not with warmth. She shows up, but never initiates. You're doing the heavy lifting in a two-person dance. And at some point, it stops being romantic and starts feeling like begging. Let's break down what this looks like in the real world. You text her, good morning, every day. Most days, no reply. Occasionally, a cold morning with no emoji. You suggest meeting up. She says, maybe, I'll see, or I'm busy, but never follows up. You ask about her day. She gives you 2-word answers. No questions back. No curiosity about you. She's not too busy. She's not confused. She's just not that into you, and using minimal effort as a filter. And yet, you stay. Why? Because part of you believes that if you just prove yourself a little more, she'll turn around. She'll see how consistent you are, how much you care, how much you're willing to give. But here's what you need to understand. Women don't fall for men who prove their loyalty before being chosen. They fall for men who choose themselves first. Read that again. If you're the kind of man who keeps investing where there's no return, it's not noble, it's self-abandonment. You're trading your dignity for a maybe, for a shot in the dark. A Stoic man doesn't operate that way. He observes the pattern, recognizes the imbalance, and then detaches, not out of spite, but out of self-respect. You're not here to convince someone of your value. You're here to protect it. There's nothing inherently wrong with a woman not being interested. It happens. But when she keeps you around just to feed her ego, to keep her options open, to use your energy like a backup generator, that's where the boundary needs to be drawn. You need to be the kind of man who doesn't chase energy that isn't reciprocal, who knows his presence is the prison or his persistence. Let her miss your attention. Let her notice the silence. Let her feel what it's like when the one who tried the most stops trying. And maybe, just maybe, that's when she realizes what she lost. But by then, you won't be waiting, because you'll be too busy giving your energy to someone who returns it. Someone who meets you halfway without you dragging them there. Someone who doesn't make you work for the bare minimum but gives more, because you inspired more. Now, if this part hit home, if you've ever felt like you were trying way too hard for someone giving way too little, comment below. I protect my energy. Say it if you're done overgiving. Say it if you're ready to stop chasing silence. And don't go anywhere yet, because this next sign, it's one that even the smartest men ignore until it's already cost them months of their life. Stay sharp. Number 4. She's hot and cold. Let's talk about confusion. 1 minute, she's texting you first, laughing at everything you say, even complimenting you out of the blue. The next minute, she's cold, distant, barely replies or disappears entirely. And you're left wondering, did I do something wrong? Did the vibe change? Or is this all in my head? Number, it's not in your head. This isn't randomness, it's rhythm. And it's by design. Some women play hot and cold, not because they're emotionally unstable, but because it's a powerful psychological lever. It creates emotional addiction. And if you've ever felt hooked on someone who treats you inconsistently, you've experienced it firsthand. Here's how it works. When a woman gives you attention, affection, and validation, then pulls it away, your nervous system doesn't know what to expect. That unpredictability triggers a dopamine loop. Your brain starts chasing the high of her warmth, even though it's not consistent. You crave her next approval like a gambler waits for the next jackpot. You stop thinking rationally. You stop questioning if this is healthy. You just want more. It's called intermittent reinforcement, and it's the exact same psychological mechanism used in casinos. You never know when the machine will pay out, so you keep playing. Except in this case, the machine is a woman, and you're betting with your dignity. Now, here's the twist. This hot and cold behavior doesn't always come from malice. Sometimes it comes from insecurity. Some women do it to test if you'll chase harder when they pull away. Others do it because they're unsure themselves, 1 foot in, 1 foot out. But the effect on you, it's the same. You're not building a relationship. You're riding an emotional roller coaster and calling it connection. This is where Stoicism becomes your weapon. Marcus Aurelius said, "If you are pained by external things, it is not they that disturb you, but your own judgment of them." Translation: her inconsistency doesn't have to control you unless you allow it to. You don't have to ride the wave. You can step off the ride. The Stoic man doesn't beg for attention. He doesn't seek warmth from someone who uses cold to manipulate. He observes, detaches, and redirects his focus toward what is within his control: his time, his energy, his standards. You need to understand that emotional inconsistency isn't passion, it's confusion. Genuine connection is steady. It builds slowly and sustainably. You don't feel like you're walking on eggshells. You don't wake up wondering, Which version of her will show up today? Let's put it in real terms. If she goes 3 days without messaging you, then suddenly sends you a selfie with Miss War, and you melt, you're caught in the loop. If she flirts hard in person, but barely acknowledges you online, and you keep chasing, you're caught. If she says, I feel a real connection, then ghosts you the next week, and you make excuses for her behavior, you're already playing her game. That's not love. That's dependency dressed up in drama. The truth is, a woman who's truly into you doesn't make you guess. She doesn't need to manufacture distance to feel desired. She shows up fully, consistently, because she values your presence and not just your pursuit. So what do you do when you spot hot and cold behavior? You stop feeding it. You stay centered. You don't overreact when she pulls away. You don't over-celebrate when she leans in. You maintain your rhythm. Because if she's hot, you stay cool. And if she goes cold, you don't go chasing warmth, you stay grounded. That's power. That's presence. That's what separates men who get played from men who command respect. And here's the thing. When you stop reacting to her temperature swings, 2 things happen. Either she levels out or she leaves, and either outcome works in your favor. Because clarity is better than confusion. And a calm man who doesn't dance for attention, that's rare, that's attractive, that's untouchable. Now, if you've ever found yourself addicted to a woman's mood swings, if you've ever stayed longer than you should have just because of the hope that her warmth would return, drop this in the comments. I stop chasing heat. That one line. That's your turning point. Stick around, because next we're going into the one situation that traps more high-value men than you'd think, being her backup plan while she explores other options. You won't want to miss it. Number 5. You're always the backup plan, never the first choice. This one cuts deeper than most, because it's not about being rejected outright. That's easy to understand. It's about being tolerated, kept around, just in case. If you've ever had a woman flirt with you when she's bored, text you only when her favorite guy disappears, or keep you close while she's figuring things out, then you've felt it. You're not the main event, you're the fallback. And the truth? It's not a compliment, it's control. Most men won't admit this. It's easier to believe she just needs time, or she's not ready for anything serious yet. But if she's laughing at some other guy's jokes, showing up for his plans, and giving him the full version of herself, while you get the "we'll see" energy, you're not waiting on love. You're waiting on leftovers. Let me paint the picture. You ask her out. She says, I'm busy this weekend, but she doesn't offer another day. You call. She texts back. Hours later, no follow-up. She opens up emotionally, only when she's upset about another man. She even tells you, you're such a good guy, but never chooses you. And the worst part, she keeps the connection alive just enough to keep you on standby, maybe with a flirty message once a week, or a like on your story. Just enough to keep the thread from snapping. That's not affection, that's manipulation. This isn't about her being evil, it's about how comfort and attention are used as currency. You provide something valuable, your time, your energy, your loyalty. She cashes it in without ever investing back. In Stoic terms, Epictetus would call this a failure to control your own attachments. He taught that our peace depends on recognizing what's in our power and stepping back from what isn't. Chasing a woman who keeps you as plan B, that's attaching your identity to something you can't control, her feelings. And when you do that, you give her power. Here's what you need to understand. If a woman really wants you, she makes it clear, effortlessly. There's no guessing, no decoding, no maybe next week. She shows up fully. But when you're her backup plan, she won't let you go either, because you're her emotional insurance. You provide the comfort of being wanted without the commitment of actually choosing you. It's a one-sided loyalty contract, and you're the only one signing it. Real power comes when you refuse to be part of that script. When you stop asking, when will she finally choose me? And start asking, why am I choosing someone who isn't choosing me back? That's when you flip the dynamic. A high-value man doesn't compete for attention. He doesn't chase someone who isn't meeting him with equal effort. He walks away, not because he's bitter, but because his time has value. You have to see yourself as the prize. If she doesn't recognize that, she's not your person, she's your lesson. Here's a Stoic truth worth remembering. Don't explain your philosophy, embody it. Epictetus. You don't need to convince her you're worth it. You show it by walking away from anyone who treats you like an option. And when you do that, everything shifts. You stop sending the double texts. You stop making excuses for her silence. You stop checking her stories to see if she's thinking about you. You reclaim your power. And ironically, that's usually when they come back. But by then, you've already moved forward. And that's when you finally feel free. So if you've ever been someone's backup, if you've ever felt like you're waiting in the wings for your shot, ask yourself, what would happen if you stopped waiting? If that question hit, if you're done being the fallback for someone who won't even commit to showing up fully, drop this in the comments. I choose to be chosen. Oh, say it if you're tired of being the emotional safety net. Say it if you're ready to stop proving your worth to someone who only sees your value when they're lonely. And stay with me, because in the next part, we're going to hit something that quietly destroys men's confidence without them even noticing. When she compliments every guy except you, you don't want to miss it. Number 6. Why men miss these signs until it's too late. Let's get real. Most men don't see the signs until they're already neck-deep in confusion, self-doubt, or heartbreak. Why? Because when a man's genuinely interested in a woman, he leads with belief, not suspicion. He assumes good intent. He gives the benefit of the doubt. He wants to win her over, not second-guess her behavior. And that desire, it makes him blind. Not because he's weak, but because he's human. See, most of us are taught to chase, to pursue, to stay persistent. And when things don't feel quite right, we're told to try harder, be more patient, be more understanding. So instead of pulling away when she's distant, you lean in. When she's inconsistent, you rationalize it. When she treats you like an option, you think, maybe if I just show her how loyal I am. But here's the truth. You're not missing the signs because they aren't there. You're missing them because you're ignoring your gut. The Stoics called it prohairesis, your inner judgment, your core ability to choose what aligns with your values. And when you silence that inner voice in the name of desire, you're no longer operating as a man who leads himself. You're reacting instead of choosing. Let's break down how this usually happens. At first, the chemistry is strong. She shows interest. You feel the spark. But quickly, the energy shifts. She pulls back. She starts replying slower. She stops initiating. But you don't walk away. You make excuses. You tell yourself, she's probably just busy. Or she's been hurt before, maybe she needs time. And every time your instincts whisper, this doesn't feel right, you tell them to shut up. You become emotionally invested in a version of her that only existed in the first few days. You hold on to a highlight reel while the full reality plays out right in front of you. And this is why it stings so badly when it ends. Because it's not just about losing her. It's about realizing you saw the red flags and ignored them. You disrespected your own intuition. Now, don't beat yourself up for it. This isn't about guilt. This is about awareness. Men miss the signs because they focus too much on how they feel and not enough on how they're being treated. And this happens especially when the woman is attractive. When she's beautiful, charming, or sexually validating, it clouds your logic. You tell yourself, this connection is rare. You believe, maybe I'm the one who can unlock her heart. But here's the harsh truth. If you were the one, he wouldn't need unlocking. She'd be there, open, consistent, reciprocal. So why do men stay blind? Because ego and hope are a dangerous cocktail. Ego says, I can fix this. Hope says, she'll come around. Together, they keep you locked in. You don't want to lose. You don't want to accept that someone you invested in doesn't value you back. So you stay, you wait, you suffer. Stoicism flips this mindset on its head. It teaches you to see things as they are, not as you wish they were, to value clarity over fantasy, to love, but not to need. When you embrace that, you start moving differently. You stop chasing signals. You start watching patterns. You don't react to one good night, you watch her over a month. You don't ignore inconsistency, you measure it. You let your standards lead, not your emotions. And if she falls short, you let her go with peace, not bitterness. Because here's what you must remember. It's better to be alone than attached to someone who makes you question your worth. So if you're watching this right now and realizing, damn, I saw these signs, I just didn't want to believe them, that's okay. Awareness is step one. And right now, you're one step closer to not falling for the same trap again. If this resonated, and you're done ignoring your gut just to keep someone around, drop this in the comments. I trust my instincts. Say it for every time you stayed silent when something felt off. Say it for the future, you who'll never compromise his clarity again. And stay with me, because next, we're diving into a twisted dynamic that makes men feel desired while being used, when she only gives you attention when it's convenient for her. This is where a lot of good men lose themselves. And you're not going to be one of them. Number 7. What to do when you finally see it clearly. So you've finally woken up. You've stopped romanticizing mixed signals. You've stopped mistaking breadcrumbs for effort. And now, it's all clear she never wanted you the way you wanted her. That realization hits hard. It's not just disappointment, it's grief. Because you weren't just investing in her, you were investing in the idea of her. The version of her that might show up if you just stayed patient, more charming, more available. Now you see the truth. What do? You don't chase closure. That's mistake number 1. Most men, when they realize a woman doesn't truly want them, still want to talk it out. They want a final conversation, a clean explanation, some stamp of clarity. But with women who never chose you fully, there's no clean ending. You were never inside their heart to begin with. You were orbiting. Background, standby. And closure? That's something you give yourself. How? You choose stillness over performance. You don't argue. You don't plead. You don't post stories hoping she'll notice. You let silence speak for you. And in that silence, you build. You build boundaries. You build your mission. You build your emotional discipline, the very core of Stoic practice. Remember this, the man who walks away silently has more power than the man who begs to stay. It's not about revenge, it's about self-respect. So what's next? You reclaim your standards. Think back. How many red flags did you ignore because she was beautiful? How many times did you tolerate being an option because the chemistry was electric? Now, you make a new rule. Attraction isn't enough. From now on, if she can't match your consistency, your clarity, your depth, she doesn't get access to your energy, period. You start training your nervous system. You know what gets most men back into toxic dynamics? Withdrawal. That itch to check her profile. That temptation to reply to a late-night text. That desperate little hope that maybe she's changed. Don't follow that. Observe it. Let it pass. It's a wave, not a command. This is where Stoicism becomes a superpower. Epictetus said, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life." But freedom doesn't come from controlling women, it comes from mastering yourself. That includes your attention, your habits, your emotional reactivity. You stop being a man who's easy to bait, who needs validation to feel complete, And finally, you step back into leadership. Not over here, over you. You realign with your mission. You deepen your friendships. You lift. You build. You create. You stop waiting for a woman to make your life exciting, and instead, you become the man who excites himself. When she wasn't sure about you, you felt lost. But when you are sure about you, everything changes. You attract differently. You move differently. And women feel it. Here's the twist most men don't realize. The moment you stop trying to prove yourself to the wrong woman, you start becoming the man the right woman respects without question. So if this moment of clarity hurts, that's okay. Let it. But let it refine you, not define you. Because now you know what to do. And if you're feeling this right now, if your gut is screaming, "This was me," and your heart is finally ready to let go, then let that be your shift. Not just in dating, but in how you lead yourself as a man. If this hit home, comment below. I know my worth. Say it if you're done being an option. Say it if you're ready to walk in truth, not fantasy. And listen, stay with me, because from here on out, it's about raising your standard, protecting your energy, and walking with power no matter who walks away. You're not invisible. You're just done proving yourself to someone who never really saw you. And that's your first real win. Number 8. She keeps you close, but never chooses you. It's one of the most confusing positions a man can find himself in. She texts you back. Sometimes. She laughs at your jokes, tells you you're different. Maybe you even hang out, grab coffee, watch a movie, talk about life. But something's always off. She never fully leans in. She never chooses you completely. You're close, but never quite chosen. This is what we call the emotional friend zone. Not the typical friend zone where it's clear she's not into you, but the deeper, more manipulative one where she wants just enough of your energy to keep you hooked without ever offering herself in return. And here's the trap. Because she doesn't push you away, you stay. You keep showing up, hoping next time she'll see you differently. But you're not in her heart. You're in her comfort zone. You're the safe guy, the fallback when her phone is dry, the listener when she needs validation, the emotional sponge for her worst days, but never the man she claims in public, chooses with certainty, or builds a future with. Why? Because keeping you around gives her power. It feeds her need for attention without requiring her to commit. It lets her feel desired, admired, and supported without giving up control. And for you, it's emotional burnout. It chips away at your confidence. It makes you question your worth. It traps you in a waiting room with no door out, just a slow leak of hope. But here's the brutal Stoic truth. If she wanted you, you'd know. You wouldn't need to guess. You wouldn't feel like a placeholder. You wouldn't need to keep proving your value. So what do? You stop negotiating for clarity. You stop making excuses for her mixed signals. You step back not to punish her, but to protect yourself. Because here's what most men forget. A woman who really sees you won't keep you in limbo. She'll want to move toward you, not keep you orbiting. Seneca once said, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." And wasting time on someone who never intended to choose you is one of the deepest forms of self-betrayal. So if you recognize this pattern, if you've been almost chosen for months, maybe yes, it's time to reset your standard. Not with drama, not with anger, with quiet clarity. You don't owe her closure. You owe yourself peace. You don't need her to change her mind. You need to reclaim your attention and reinvest it into something real. And once you stop being the backup plan, you finally open the door for someone who actually sees you as her first choice. If this speaks to you, if this is you, comment, "I choose myself." Say it to break the pattern. Say it to take back your time. And don't go anywhere, because this lesson doesn't end here. The deeper you see the patterns, the more dangerous you become to anyone trying to play you. Let's keep going. Number 9. Her interest fades the moment you show yours. You've probably seen it happen. One day she's flirty, engaged, lighting up when you talk. Then you start texting back a little faster, showing a bit more interest. You let your guard down and say, "I'd like to see you again." Suddenly, everything changes. Her replies slow down. The vibe shifts. You feel like you've done something wrong, but all you did was care a little more. So what happened? Some women, especially the emotionally unavailable or validation-driven types, aren't attracted to genuine connection. They're addicted to the chase, not the man, not the potential relationship, just the feeling of being pursued. To them, interest isn't exciting, it's threatening. Because when you show up with honesty and intention, you take away the mystery. You kill the drama. You force clarity. And clarity? That terrifies someone who was only in it for the emotional high. Here's the Stoic reality. Some people confuse being desired with being worthy. They don't want a healthy bond. They want attention to soothe their ego. So when you shift from distant to present, they lose control of the dynamic. You're no longer the prize to be unlocked. You're just a man who showed up emotionally naked, and that level of maturity scares them. So what should you do? First, don't blame yourself for being real. Your honesty isn't the problem. Her emotional instability is. Second, stop trying to win her back by pulling away or playing cold. That turns you into the game player. And that's not who you are. You don't want someone who only wants you when you're out of reach. You want a woman who leans in when you open up, not one who disappears. This is why emotional self-control matters more than ever. Marcus Aurelius said, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." In this case, the injury is emotional baiting. The remedy is consistency. Keep showing up as the grounded, clear, emotionally available man. If she fades, let her. Because the right woman will find that kind of presence magnetic. Let her go chase the next mystery. You're busy building a life that doesn't rely on unpredictable affection to feel valuable. And when you do that, you stop chasing and start attracting. If you've ever felt this comment, "I don't chase," say it if you're done dimming yourself just to hold someone's interest. And listen closely. The final piece we're about to explore, it's the reason most men never fully escape this emotional loop. Don't go anywhere. Number 10. You work for her attention and she knows it. Let's get brutally honest. Some women don't want a relationship. They want a fan base. And if you're constantly jumping through hoops just to get noticed, you're not her partner, you're her audience. You compliment her. You text first. You ask her how her day is. You wait hours, sometimes days, for a one-word reply. And when she finally responds, you feel grateful. That's not attraction. That's manipulation. The truth is, she's not oblivious to your effort. She knows you're trying. She knows you're investing. She knows your time, your presence, your energy. It's all centered around her. And she uses that. Every time she pulls away and watches you chase harder, it reaffirms something in her, that she holds the power. And for her, that's intoxicating. It's not about connection. It's about control. You see, real feminine energy is receptive. It responds to masculine leadership, presence, and confidence. But when she positions herself as the gatekeeper of affection, turning her attention into a reward for your obedience, she's not seeking love. She's feeding her ego. And you start believing that her attention is something you have to earn. But the more you work for it, the more she devalues it. This is how the dynamic becomes toxic. You get trapped in a performance. You abandon your own boundaries. You become hyper-focused on keeping her interested, instead of asking the most important question: do I even like the way she treats me? Because here's what most men miss. When a woman truly respects you, you don't need to perform to hold her interest. You don't need to sacrifice your self-worth to stay on her radar. She's already drawn to you, your mission, your energy, your direction. And if she's not, that's your cue to walk. In Stoic philosophy, Epictetus reminds us, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. In other words, stop trying to impress people who don't value your presence. You don't win a woman's heart by chasing her attention. You do it by commanding your own and offering it only where it's appreciated. So, if you're constantly working for her validation, it's time to flip the script. Not to play games, not to become bitter, but to regain your center. Because a man who no longer works for attention is a man who starts attracting it naturally without begging, without proving, and without shrinking himself to fit someone else's expectations. You don't need to earn what's meant for you. Let go of the need to impress, and watch who starts noticing for real. That's it, brother. If you've seen yourself in any of these patterns, don't beat yourself up. Awareness isn't weakness, it's strength. It means you're awake now, and when a man wakes up, the game changes for good. So if this resonated, don't just walk away. Subscribe. Hit that button so you don't miss what's coming next. Because we're building something, here is a space for men who move with intention, who live with clarity, and who choose growth over games. If you're ready to go deeper, join the Stoic Brotherhood. That's where we sharpen each other, privately, powerfully, and with zero fluff. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow.